Here we are once again with Make It Make Sense.
Make it make sense, soulmates.
Where we like to talk about all the things that people don't talk about, but we're going to talk about them.
Because I got to make it make sense.
We got to get some things straight.
Yes.
Today we're talking about religion, the Bible. Let's start at the beginnings, the very beginnings of what we call religion.
Okay.
What is religion, first of all?
What is religion? If you ask me, religion is basically a set of rules that somebody is telling you to live by based on their understanding of their God. And I also believe that, not to say that religion is bad, but I just feel like it almost feels like a sorority or a fraternity. Everybody has their own customs, their own things. And it feels like another form or another way to classify and really segregate us, if you ask me. That's how I look at religion.
Segregation, you can see it that way, but also it's voluntary.
It is.
Like we are voluntarily signing up for a certain type of lifestyle.
Right. That's true.
Right.
That's true. I would agree with that.
And I don't see anything wrong with religion. Let's not say that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but
it's not.
But the way that it has been used to control societies, that's the problem.
Right.
That people no longer think on their own.
That part. Like you said, think on their own.
Right.
Because a lot of people live based off of what their religion says, or quote unquote what the Bible says. But then this is where I have to debate those that say they live according to what the Bible says, because they pick and choose which parts of the Bible they want to live by. Exactly. And then the other parts of the Bible they don't touch.
Right.
So make it make sense. Are you full Christian, part Christian, half Christian, a little bit Christian, 3/4? And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it, but I'm saying, how can you say I'm believing these parts, but then I don't believe in these other parts? But then we're quick to judge other people. And that, to me, definitely speaks volumes, because I know the Bible specifically asks us not to judge. Yet I find a lot of those that are in the church, specifically, especially in the Christian church, they judge the most. And that, to me, is the thing I don't like about religion, or the church for that matter.
Okay. So,
excuse me.
From my perspective, what religion is, it's humanity's way of trying to explain things that we really can't explain. Like, we haven't seen the heavens. We haven't seen gods. At least we haven't, not in our experience. But for us to try to explain how the world was created, how humans were created, how the animals were created, how this earth was created, what's holding the earth in the middle of nothing in the space. So for us to deify these ideas, I think that was the beginning of religion. Like, imagine ancient prehistoric peoples. Right. They can't even talk, first of all. So what do they know about a God or a Jesus or whatever? Right. Exactly. So, that's true. So I think at that point, it's just a matter of trying to figure out, what is this life? I think that's where religion started from. Like, what is this that we're in? And to try to explain it. What's in control of this?
That's interesting you say what's in control, because I think that's the thing. Control. That's what I just said. It's just a way to control
from a humanistic standpoint. But if we think of just who we are as people, is there something controlling us? Is there something that created us? Is there something making the world go round, keeping the planets in line?
Right. Now, I would say yes. I choose to believe in a higher power, whom I choose to call God. However, I do know that because I am created by God, God is within all of us. There's God in us because God created us. Just like there's a devil in us because we are our own devil. And
I agree.
That's the part that I feel like, as human beings and those that are deeply rooted and connected to God, because, I'm a spiritualist, so I believe in spirit being within us. You already know what to live by. You don't need society to tell you how to live, because you already have an understanding because of what God has already given you. And I decided to pursue this path it was because of what God chosen me to do. When I discovered what it was, when I got quiet and started listening to what it was God was telling me to do. The president didn't tell me to do that. Mm-hmm. That college education didn't tell me to do that.
It's called innate.
Yes, intuition is what I call it.
Yeah, an innate ability.
Yeah.
Like you said, if God is in us, we're supposed to naturally have a relationship.
We are.
With the source of who we are.
That's right.
In the Christian tradition, we say that God is omnipresent, mm-hmm. omnipotent.
That's right.
And what's the third one? There's three of them. Omnipresent, that means everywhere. Omnipotent, all powerful.
Right.
And all knowing is omniscient.
Yes, omniscient. Thank you.
Okay, so if God is all three of those, if God is omnipresent, that means He's present in you, He's present in me, He's present in the food, present in the flowers, present in the present in everything.
That's right.
If we put God at that level, to say that God is infused in every cell of our bodies,
right,
we don't have a separation.
Thank you. We don't. That's my point. So why are we separated and segregated by religion? I don't need a religion to tell me who God is. I have a God of my own understanding.
Right.
And as far as I know, I seem to be doing okay because I'm on this path. And I know no matter what, God got me. I believe in something. Something got me through all those dark moments and through the suicide 6 years ago. I know I didn't do it because when I thought I was in control,
right,
everything fell apart. That's how I knew there was something greater than me to believe in.
So I think we need to separate faith from religion. I mean, we can have a faith, we have a belief, we have a trust, we have a relationship. I think the problem that a lot of us have is the religion part.
Because people try to play God.
Right. We got people trying to play God. We got the pastor taking that leadership role as if I'm your leader, like I'm your everything.
Yes, I'm your God. You must praise me. You must worship me.
Pay me.
Thank you. Right. Oh, let's talk about the pastor, the pimps in the pulpit, as Michael Basin used to call it.
Yeah.
I remember listening to his show in the early 2000s. Now, I heard the stories, but I didn't understand the stories until I became one of those stories.
Okay.
Because I didn't, unbeknownst to me, was interacting with a pastor, a man who's of the faith. No, he wasn't practicing in the church, but everybody knew him as a pastor. And also, he's a motivational speaker. So he's walking around healing people and speaking these words of life and healing. But he was a totally different person behind closed doors. Because the things that I experienced with this man was nothing like the person that the world saw or the person that's in the book, because he has his book out. And when he and I first met, he was helping me with my book, also helping me with my speaking career. And he presented it as, I'm going to help you. You work with me. This is what he said. You're going to get there quicker, because he already had his foot in the door and he made it seem like he had all these connections. Okay. Oh, great. Wonderful. I can use some support. I don't know what I'm doing. And you're a pastor. You're a man of faith. You seem like you're a good person because you give off the appearance. You have the impression. So why did I not think, differently? However, I didn't realize what was happening. He made it seem like he was divorced.
Whoa.
Or he was about to get a divorce. I'm sorry. Because I found out later, long story short, I found out the man was not only was he still married, but all of these connections and all of these things he said he was doing, he was not doing.
So he gave you the line of, I'm going to get divorced. So
No, he actually presented a document.
Okay.
He actually had a paper. But unbeknownst to me, again, going with the flow, when I met him, we were working together. Then along the lines, it became, well, I wonder if this could be more, because I thought that this was the man that God was sending to me, because me and God we already got this situation. Me and God already got understanding, so I'm just waiting on my husband. So maybe this is him. I don't know, but I'm willing to see. Maybe this can be a working and romantic relationship. If we can be in connection and alignment, this could be a beautiful thing. But we were never going to be in alignment because he was lying. And the more I could see it, the more I started to see and tell him. I would say things to him, because I realized after a while it became very codependent. He was helping me here and there financially, but he made it seem as if he was going to be the financial support. Mm-hmm. He was going to fund the book. He was going to fund all of these things. He made it seem like he was fully invested in me before we had even pursued this romantic relationship. But further along, it became more of, I'm not helping you, I'm controlling you. I want you to do this and I want you to do that. Now, I am going to admit, I did give him the control. I allow him to be the dominant person because I figured he had all the experience, so he was going to show me. But it became a control thing. And I realized then, oh, you're a narcissist. Mm. And I don't know how I got here, but I'm in this. And I couldn't understand why I was in this situation. And I just kept praying. I just remember praying and praying. And I'm like, God, I just want my book. I just want to be out of this because I know this doesn't feel right. And when I found out the truth, it just really bugged me because once again, you pretend to be somebody else, being a false prophet in these streets. But behind closed doors, you're a whole different person. It's like, who are you? Jekyll and Hyde. I don't know if it was, and I'm not a medical expert, but I don't know if it was borderline personality disorder. I don't know what it was, but it was like he had empathy in the public. But when I was going through things, he could never extend any empathy, any support. And then when I started questioning him, I said, help me understand, which one of these people are you? Because I don't understand how you can pretend to be this way in the public.
Okay. You just gave me an earful.
Yeah, that was a lot.
So I'm going to unpack some of that.
Please.
The word narcissist. Mm-hmm. For anybody that doesn't know what a narcissist is, she pretty much defined a narcissist. And here's exactly what that is. Yes. A narcissist is a person who is self-absorbed. They have such a sense of how they are viewed.
Insecure.
Yeah, within themselves. But also, they do lack of empathy. That's part of the definition. Mm-hmm. If we go to the dictionary and look up, that's part of the definition of not having empathy. Being so self-absorbed. Yes. Self-conscious. Yeah. What's the other word you just said?
Insecure.
Insecure, yes. All of those, and controlling.
Yes. Because they're trying to overcompensate. They're going to try to control the way that you love them, the way that you give them attention, the way that you take care of them, because it's all about them.
So that in the end, they look good.
Yep.
That's what a narcissist is. Now, I'm going to tie this into Christianity.
Talk about it.
There's a reason why that man, well, not just that man, but
several of them.
I'm going to just say, I'm not going to say all Christians. Here's a disclaimer. I'm not anti-Christian.
Me neither.
I'm not anti-Christian. I'm not anti-religion. I'm not anti-Christ. But there are some things going on in the Christian realm
that we have to unpack. We have to unlearn it.
We have to unlearn it. We got to start it over again. I really believe. I believe in Christ.
Me too. My brother Jesus.
Joint heirs. We are joint heirs with Christ. That's right. That's my brother.
That's right.
I don't look at him as like...
I literally consider Jesus my brother. He was a human being. He was a man. That's how I consider Jesus. Now he's benevolent, one of the highest benevolent spirits he reached
the highest level of connection with God that we could get. He's the example for us to follow.
Exactly. And the way I equate this in spirituality, I equate that to Jesus being at the highest level of consciousness, right up under the Creator.
Exactly.
That's consciousness beyond anything we could ever fathom on this earth. However, the Christians, some, I feel like on a spiritual, metaphysical level, they can live in a very low vibrational state.
Okay. And that leads me to the narcissism. Mm-hmm. My opinion, it's just my opinion. A lot of Christians feel the need to be self-aware of who they are. Mm-hmm. And be so conscious of their appearance.
Yes.
They want to make sure that they are seen as righteous, sometimes self-righteous.
Yes.
What's that going to lead to? A lot of times it leads them to be the biggest liars, the biggest deceivers, because they have to protect a certain reputation.
That's right.
They hold themselves so high.
As if they are who?
Jesus or something.
Exactly.
But
And they're human.
They're human. So they don't want to be seen as human.
Right.
They want to hide all the mistakes.
That's right.
Don't want to admit that they make mistakes.
That's right.
They're the perfect ones.
And so that's impossible.
Yeah, and they end up lying. I got an example. Just the other day, I ran into a friend of mine who's like super extra religious and Christian. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
But here's what she did.
What'd she do?
Here's what she did. I didn't see her at first. I'm at the in fact, I told you I was at the grocery store. Right. Okay. I'm in the parking lot and somebody honking a horn, honk. I'm looking around like, now I finally see her and we're like, hey, and we talking. And she started telling me of some family issue that's going on. And she was like, so yeah, we friends on Facebook, right?
What does that mean?
What that means is I know good and well we're not friends on Facebook because she had deleted me. Right. We used to be friends on Facebook.
Oh. Did she forget or was she trying to be funny?
That's one of them Christian things, I think. That's what I'm saying.
Passive aggressive?
Yeah, it's one of them things where
definitely was
like
that.
You deleted me. And I know you deleted me, but because now
and they try to gaslight you.
Right. What you talking about? We friends on Facebook, right? You can see my... No, I can't. No. At some point, I said something she didn't agree with. And deleted me.
Right. Or because he would block me. And I'm like, why are you blocking me?
Right. But see, I think that's one of them Christian type of lies.
What's the Christian lie?
Yeah, because you don't want to say that you deleted me.
They don't want to admit it. So this goes back to, again, we in this church. Well, why are you in the church every Sunday reading the Bible and you're not practicing what you preach? And for me, that's when I had to call him out. I said, you're out here living one way for these people, but behind closed doors, you're not practicing what you preach. Stop playing with my father like that. You will not disrespect God like that. I can't allow that. And you know what? I don't have to because God gonna get you. And I told him, you don't have to answer to me, but I just want you to know the way that you're living, you and I both know that you cannot win in this lifetime or the next.
But I really believe people who call themselves preachers, teachers, pastors, they're going to be held on a higher standard.
Yes, they are.
They're going to be held accountable for them putting themselves in that position, but not living up to it.
And let's be honest, we live in a cancer culture. We can fact check, triple check. Matter of fact, I found out that the man, I actually did a background check on him after all of this transpired, after a very, very traumatic event occurred between he and I in December of last year. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I did a background check a few weeks later, saw his divorce documents. And in the documents, it specifically stated that his ex-wife called him a narcissist. And they said he had some kind of characteristic disorder and how he was physically abusive to her. And oh my gosh. And then that's when I said, whoa, who is this person?
Wow.
And they swear that you are like Superman and you're just a normal man. And I think I would tell him that you're not the real Superman. I know that's what your grandma told you as a little boy, but you're a grown man now and this is the real world, honey. You are not. You are not. You have to be human. And now the way that this world is, that fake, phony, false prophet, God will not allow us to continue to live that way. We are going to be held accountable. And
I believe so.
If not, what's going to happen? It's going to pull the rug from up under us and it's going to make us wake up.
Yeah.
Because I ended up telling his wife that he cheated on her. I didn't mean to, but when I finally started putting two and two together because I had the lady's number, talk about that later.
Yeah, I was going to say how you have her number.
Because remember, I told you he was helping me professionally. So he had her reach out because they was working together.
He was trying to be smart. He
exactly.
Was like, let me connect
so
these two. So
he had her reach out to see if I wanted to start a podcast. And I still had her number because I wasn't trying to have an affair with this man. I'm thinking this was just business. So this was months before he and I started to pursue this when she reached out to me. Mm-hmm. But needless to say, I still had her number. And when I reached out to her, she's like, yes, we've been married for 17 years. Before I could say anything else, she responded back, did you have sex with him? I'm not going to lie.
She already knew.
She already knew. And then I told her, I think I met somebody else that he was messing with before me. And she said, what's her name? And I said, I think it started with an S. I can't remember it. She said, oh, I know because I can tell the way that they comment on his posts.
Okay.
Men, this is why men get caught too. But this is what happens when you try to be a pimp in the pulpit. When you out here in these streets pretending to be a false prophet, yes, chickens gonna come home to roost. You have got to suffer the consequence. And I remember telling him that what you reap is what you sow. How are you the pastor? And I'm sitting here quoting and ministering to you. And you 50, you older than me.
That's because people don't really have a real relationship with God. We play in church, but we not like can we bring back spirituality? Did I say the word right?
Spirituality. Yes, let's talk about spirituality.
Yeah.
I'm a spiritualist. I believe in spirit. I believe in the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. I believe in spirit guides. I believe that my deceased parents are always near. They're always here with me. I believe that. I believe that there are beings greater than us that we are not able to see or touch, but that they are working on our behalf in connection with God, in connection with Jesus. I believe in God creating the sun and the moon and the planets, and I believe in astrology. So I remember telling somebody months ago how I believe in astrology, how I study it and understand it. And as I was explaining this to this person, their response was, "Oh, I don't know anything about that. I'm Christian."
Although, if you read the Bible, and I read the Bible many times from beginning to end,
yes,
there's a whole lot of astrology in that Bible.
Talk about it, because the three wise men were what?
Astrologers.
Thank you. They weren't astrologists.
What's a wise man? What does it mean to be
astrologist?
A wise? Yeah, astrologist.
They couldn't say that though. So it baffled me because I actually chuckled. I said, I'm a Christian too. My brother Jesus, yes, I was baptized Catholic, born and raised a Catholic. Don't practice it. But what does that mean? Did God not create all of this?
I mean, get this. If we're not supposed to be astrologers, why did those three wise men know? Star. They knew what star to. We call it a star, but it was most likely a planet. But anyway, either way, they knew what celestial body to follow.
That's right.
And they knew that a birth of a king would be, or king, or
that's right.
They knew something
major was happening.
Somebody special was about to be born.
Right.
They knew. Why? Because the star told them so.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
What?
No, I was just saying that's so interesting though, because then I guess is there somewhere in the Bible where it says that astrology or astrologists or something is blasphemy? Because I couldn't understand why Christians felt that way about astrology or spirituality.
I've never. I don't. Maybe somebody can correct me. Now, y'all watching this, get in the comments or something.
Make it make sense to me.
Yeah, make it make sense to me. If you know of a scripture in the Bible that says astrology is wrong, get in the comments and let me know, because I want to know.
Right.
I want to know where it's at. I've never read that.
I don't know either. Somebody, I think it was that lying pastor that told me that, because I was like, why would somebody tell me that? Because I figured he knew the Bible, right? He a pastor. He did. But again, he picked and chose which parts of the Bible he wanted to live by too. But it still doesn't matter, because God creates everything. God, Buddha, Allah, whomever you choose to believe in. Nature, source, universe. We didn't just come here out of anywhere. I do believe that.
Right. Now, there are parts in the Bible, and I will say this though, where it talks about sorcery, sorcery. But here's the thing though. Sorcery, what's the other word I'm looking for? Divination, blah 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 blah. Now, there are parts that speak against that, but here's the thing though. I take that to mean we're not supposed to be reliant on those things, especially when we have the ability to have a real connection with spirit, a direct connection with spirit. There's, back in the Old Testament, there's a thing called Urim and Thummim. Have you heard of that?
I haven't.
Basically, it's some stones. They don't know exactly what type of stones, but the priest would use these stones, and they would basically shake them like dice or whatever.
Okay, shooting dice.
Throw them out. Not shooting dice.
I know, I'm joking.
but we believe, scholars believe that one was a black color, one was white, right?
Oh, crystals.
Yeah, these are gems basically.
Yeah.
But they don't know exactly what type. Most likely onyx and some other type of.
Who knows? It could have been clear quartz. It could have been a lot of things.
Right.
But interesting.
But what they would do is ask questions. If they came to a point where they didn't know which way to go, they would ask spirit or God or whatever, give me the answer, and it was yes or no.
That's right.
The black one was no, or white one was yes, or either way. But the Hebrew priest, the Israelite priest, would use these. It's in the Bible. It's called Urim and Thummim. Now, we shouldn't be totally self dependent on those types of things.
Right.
But the tool was there.
For clarity.
Right. And that's how I see astrology.
Thank you.
Any types of divination or anything else. The tool is there. Mm-hmm. But don't be so reliant and dependent on it that you no longer have a direct relationship with God.
Right. And that's just like anything. Don't abuse it. Don't overdo it. Because you're always supposed to have a connection with God. It's just like the people that run to the pastor that are so into the church. For example, I had a family member who was so into the church. They basically cut off all connection with the family because we were seen as sinners. Because they got saved, they no longer wanted to play cards. They stopped drinking and smoking. Okay. So they basically cut themselves off from their family. Mm-hmm. And they had children, so I didn't see my cousins a lot. They would come around maybe Easter, Mother's Day. But I couldn't understand why. And as a child, all I knew was when my aunt was always at church. She was always at church. Mm-hmm. Later on, as I got older, I found out her pastor was basically brainwashing them. Mm. I mean, she's giving up all the money, very last of the money. Kids spending all day at the church. So much so that the pastor was so involved in her and her husband's life. Mm-hmm. My uncle left the church completely because he didn't get along with the pastor. Then when my younger cousin transitioned, he had cerebral palsy. Mm-hmm. And he died in 2006. He was young. I think they got into it about that. As a matter of fact, my uncle had his pastor there. My aunt had her pastor. It was like water roses at the funeral.
Wow.
This is what I mean by like, where's the love and where's the God and where's the connection in any of this? Yeah. We got blinded by the money, by the almighty dollar, that we have lost ourselves. And 2025 is going to wake us up and help us see we cannot continue to live that way. We cannot continue to just sacrifice ourselves for money, for material stuff, or for anybody else except for God. Because if God is not in these decisions, if God is not involved, or when I say God, I mean love, I mean a solid foundation for why we're doing these things, mm-hmm. It's not going to fulfill us. God is going to take it away, because anything that is not on a solid foundation is crumbling so it can be rebuilt. That's why we have planes falling out the sky. Hmm. That's why you have wildfires. Things gonna crumble. Only way it's gonna happen is when we have a tower moment and everything crashes. Everything basically shut down, and now we have to rebuild it. Now we have to create a new way. And I've been talking to people about this, not to scare them, but to wake them up.
Yeah. I think God does that.
Indeed.
He shake us up and wake us up.
And will.
My mom used to always say, God will chastise you.
Absolutely. Listen, right? That's why I was in that situation. God said, if you don't wake up, ma'am, and see, only thing you need is me and you in this book.
She used to always say, God gonna take out his spiritual belt.
Yes. And that's the thing I love about my spirit. Because see, the way the relationship I got with my God, I say, God, okay, you got to be real direct with me, spirit, because you know I'm hard-headed. And will and couldn't get any more direct. And I said, okay, God, I'm ready. I saw what you just did. I'm listening. I'm focused. Because that's what it looks like to have a relationship with God. And I don't have to go to church every Sunday for that. I don't go to church every Sunday. Pray all day. Talk to God all day. Thank him all day. Him, her, Shem, whatever you believe in.
I know a lot of my family is disappointed that I don't go to church. Mm-hmm. I mean, I show up every once in a while, but I'm just not enthused. Honestly, I'm being honest. I'm not enthused about getting up every Sunday and going and blah, blah, blah. Not that I hate it.
It's just the whole routine.
It's the routine, and it's the dependency on it. It's the some of the falsehood, because I kind of feel like sometimes people feel like if you're not in the church, if you're not fellowshipping, that you've lost your connection with God.
That's so true.
And that's like the total opposite. Like you said, you pray all day. The Bible said pray without ceasing.
I don't have to go to church.
Right. It's not Sunday that I pray. It's all day long. You know
Make that make sense. Because that's the only day of the week that y'all talk about God. Right. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's why they make it their business to go on Sunday, because that's the only day out of the week that they are dedicating. And again, it goes back to, are you serious with God or no? Are you really believing in God, Or are you believing in the idea of what the church is telling you?
The idea. And I'm not saying everybody. We're not saying everybody. We generalizing, but
I'm basing this off what I've seen in my life and the people that I've known. Again, this is my personal experience. We all have our own experience.
But what we're doing is, though, we are picking out bits and pieces of things that need to change.
Absolutely.
We want to change the culture, not just in religion, but in relationships, and the way we view health, the way we view wealth, abundance, everything. But it all ties into the way we view our interactions, the way we view our involvement in things like church.
It is.
Church is such a big, not just church, I mean religion and spirituality as a whole is a big foundation of who most of us are.
Right.
Whether you Christian or whatever type of religion, or even if you're not religious at all,
that's true.
You have some sense of spirituality.
You do.
And it rules the way you think.
It does. And for some of us, it rules the way we think more than others.
Right.
Especially if you grew up in a church. Then you have certain churches that made you feel like if you did any type of sin, you would go to hell. So let's talk about this story of hell. Okay. That is the scariest, sickest thing that they could ever teach us. Why would you teach me that? Why would you teach children that? That is the scariest thing ever. And it wasn't until I started healing after my suicide attempt, I didn't believe in a hell anymore. I said, I don't know if that's true. I just believe that certain souls are going to come back to relive the same things over and over again until they learn their lesson. Now, that could be seen as hell because that could just be insanity, having to keep relive the life and you're not learning the lesson so your soul can move on to the next level. That's how I look at it. But I don't believe in this hell thing.
Like an actual lake of fire.
Yeah, I just don't believe in it, but I don't need to because that's not where I'm headed. So
here's my thing. Even as a child, a young child reading the Bible, I was so smart. And I got to tell you, I was smart. I was smart in this way. Smart enough to read the Bible and understand that they didn't mean this literally. There's no way they meant this literally.
Oh, man.
Here's the clues. I had the best English teachers in the world. Mm-hmm. They taught me how to use context clues and things like that. So when I read something, I make it my business to try and understand what I'm reading. To
make it make sense.
Right, make it make sense. That's what this whole thing is. So heaven and hell. We hear descriptions of what we think heaven is.
Right.
We say it got gates and streets of gold. What you mean streets? Where at? So heaven is a planet somewhere. They got real streets like the yellow brick road.
Yeah,
like, you know,
made of gold.
Is it really? Or is that just man's description or our way of trying to explain something unexplainable? Our way of attributing humanistic viewpoints on something that's not physical.
True. Or was it just a way to try to control us?
That too could be. But if heaven can be described as a place with gates and mansions and streets of gold and stuff, and we probably smart enough to think, well, maybe it's not really a physical place if we're not in a physical body.
No, I think people think that it's a physical place.
But if you don't have what do you need a physical place if you don't have a physical body for?
I think some people think that it is a physical body. I don't know, but I'm just thinking
a whole nother body.
I think they think they're going to be in the same body, but we don't know that these are skin suits. These are temporary.
We just don't know. We speculate. I'm speculating right now. I'm okay with saying I don't know everything.
I don't either, but I'll tell you what my belief is, and I'll tell you what I've learned. Again, this is my experience because I've met a medium who's been able to connect with my family on the other side.
Okay.
And I know it was my family because she said things that nobody would know.
I get
so that. No, she didn't make this up. But the fact that she's able to connect with them tells me that, for one, they do still look like themselves. Because I've had another medium I met with, and she was actually able to connect with my husband's grandmother, who had just had a memorial service a month before. And I met with her, and she instantly describes her because the obituary was sitting on my counter. And I said, wow, I'm surprised she popped up. But I'm not surprised. So I absolutely believe that our souls will look like they will appear in a certain way. I do believe, depending on the person, depending on the reader, whatever the case may be. But I think it's just because when you're in that realm, when you're on that level of consciousness, you can very much be in your physical form, or you can go back into the non-physical. That's how I look at it.
Now, this is interesting. I've read somewhere, I won't say where I read it, but I read somewhere that there are people who believe that our organs and the cells of our body, everything has a secondary, not a secondary, but a primary existence outside of the body in the spiritual realm. So that your heart has a counterpart in the spiritual realm. So even when this physical body is in ailment, like your heart could be damaged.
Right.
But your true essence outside of your body has a counterpart that still remembers the wholeness and the health of the original part.
So that makes sense.
I gotta stop banging this.
But the fact that you said that, so that goes back to what I was saying, because when I again started this journey, I realized that certain people that I encounter in this lifetime, I feel like I've known them since forever, or they feel familiar. Okay. So then that's when I started realizing, oh, because my soul does remember you. That's why you feel familiar. We had an experience in a previous lifetime. I do believe that the people we interact with in this lifetime, we've interacted with before. Maybe not in the same way, not in the same, like we weren't in this relationship. But like, for example, I do strongly believe that my son was my father, because he was very much, even now, he's still very protective of me. So that's what I believe in. But I'm glad you said that, because I do strongly believe that we do meet each other, and then it's a matter of remembering what it was that we were really truly sent here to do.
Right. And when I say remembrance, I don't mean necessarily our brains, but
I don't mean our brains either. I'm talking about our soul.
Right, our soul, your actual cellular structure, the thing that actually makes you tick. So back to the heaven and hell thing. If we can describe heaven in earthly terms, then maybe we're doing the same thing with hell. We're describing a place with fire.
Yeah, the things that's going to play on our fears, basically.
Exactly. Without actually knowing the trueness of it, like what's really happening to that soul. If God decides, well, I don't want to regurgitate that soul, I want to
throw the whole soul away.
Yeah, I want to throw that soul away. Like, that may be the concept, but are we explaining it or describing it in the trueness that God knows it to
God
be?
God does that either.
Well, we don't. Yeah,
we don't. I just don't. I think God allows you. I just know. I believe in free will. We have the opportunity to redo the same things again, or we can do something differently.
Relearn that lesson.
Right. And oh my gosh, I was about to say something when you said, "Oh my gosh." I forgot. Go ahead. Continue. I don't remember what you said.
I don't know.
It'll come back to me. But continue where you left off at.
I was talking about hell and how we describe heaven and hell in earthly terms. Like, we're using imagery that we understand in our human perspective to explain something that's not human or not even physical. We're explaining something in the spiritual realm.
So how does that make sense? Okay. That's what I was going to say. So I was talking to somebody the other day whose son died by suicide. And I believe this firmly, that those that have died by suicide, I do not believe that they are in anybody's hell. I don't believe that. I know we have the 10 commandments. It said, thou shalt not
kill.
Right. But where did it say that if you, I know I said commit suicide, but we don't say commit. We say die by suicide now. Does it specifically state you're going to go to hell if you die by suicide?
No.
Where do we get this from?
It's that really just comes from us developing our own ideologies.
Thank you.
I mean, we do that with a lot of things.
We do.
But so when the 10 commandments, and it wasn't just 10, by the way, you do know the Bible says that Moses got mad and threw down the tablets.
Right? We don't even know all of them.
Or he got mad and threw down the tablets. They cracked, and then God had to like rewrite some other ones. But either
throw them together real quick. But that's interesting. So once again, I strongly believe we are here to learn what we need to learn, make mistakes. If you steal or kill or you do these things that you know you're not supposed to do, you're going to pay the consequence. Whether you get caught or not, you're still going to suffer the consequence.
Right. Everything has a consequence. Everything has a cause and effect.
That's right.
What we call sin, like we tend to think of it as good versus evil, good and bad, blah, blah, blah. But why can't we just think of sin as something that just isn't to your advantage? Something that's going to damage you? Because if you really think of the things that's in the 10 Commandments, they all make sense. No, you shouldn't kill anybody. No, you shouldn't.
Why would I want to take a life?
Yeah.
Intentionally.
Right. No, you shouldn't covet somebody else's wife. No, you shouldn't. They all make sense.
That's true.
It's things that if you adhere to them, they'll help you out in your life.
Yeah.
But there's also vagueness in it too. If it says you shall not kill, does that mean don't kill any animals?
Right.
Don't kill any plants?
Definitely do a lot of killing.
Kill
that roach,
Right.
But that's a good point.
Let that spider crawl on you.
Right.
I'm just saying,
and so now here we are in 2025, and you still have people that still live in AD 10,000. And I realized that in 2025, the biblical world no longer exists. The Bible is the foundation, and I do believe now we have to create and write new stories for the new world that we're living in. I do believe that people are going to start to all awaken and start to challenge the status quo, meaning there will be some people that will probably start to challenge the church, or may walk out the church or realize they don't need to be in the church, or start seeing the things that I saw. Wait, there's a lot of false prophets, because you're a man just like I'm man. We're all human. Now, I'm not saying that the pastor can't make mistakes, but own up and be a man or a woman about it.
Right.
Because that's what good people, human beings, souls, creatures of God, that's what you do. You make mistakes, you learn the lesson, you repent, you don't do it again. But when you don't even repent and accept accountability, you do realize you have to pay the price for that at some point.
Right.
And that's what I realized. Regardless if you do it in this lifetime or the next, one way or the other, you're going to repay. Most likely you're going to experience it in this lifetime. But we should not ever pretend like we're different than somebody else. And I don't care what your religion is. We are all here to learn these lessons. It doesn't matter your title. The pastor can make mistakes. And I'm not trying to knock the pastor.
Of course.
I pray for anybody that's in an unhealed state of mind, because I feel sorry for the man, because you can't even be your real self. Or anybody who's living a double life, because that has got to be stressful. To pretend to be one way in front of other people, then be this way around other people. That just sounds like a very miserable soul to me.
It is. I could imagine. What did you say? You were saying something that I wanted to speak on.
I don't know, but I remember a couple years ago, my son bought a Bible from Amazon when he was 14. I thought it was so interesting, because I didn't raise my son in church. He didn't get baptized. I wanted my son to make his decision on whether or not he wants to go the religious route. I know all about that original sin. I just don't believe in any of that anymore. I want him to make his own life decisions. But when he bought that Bible, I thought that was so interesting. And he never told me why. He just wanted to read it. Okay. And recently I asked him, was he still reading? He said no. And I just wanted to know, because I wanted to discuss it with him to see what he learned. I just thought it was really mature of him to even think about wanting to read the Bible.
Right.
Especially
he's how old?
He's 17 now.
And he did that when he was 14?
14. And he didn't go to a parochial school. He went to a Montessori school. I went to a Catholic school, and I didn't even want to buy a Bible, I guess, because that was readily available. But
what did they teach y'all in Catholic school? Like, did you have to go to church or mass or something? And you read the Bible in school?
So in elementary school, from preschool through 8th grade, we had to go to family mass once a month, and each family had to donate the money. They would give us the envelope. We didn't necessarily have to, but it was the thing we did. They would have, now, because I was Catholic, baptized Catholic, I had to altar serve. I did the Holy Communion. And actually, in my 8th grade year, and I was 14, I passed out on the altar serving in the middle of the mass. And the pastor, the father, I was blacked out, but he must have got me up so fast. I had a black rug burn, a black scar on my eye. It was bad. It finally went away, I want to say, maybe about a year. It was so bad. It looked like somebody beat me up. But he just kept on going like it was nothing.
Like you just fell down? Yep. You don't know what happened? Or
I just woke up like, what happened? I was out of it. And I remember I went to the back because the other young lady, this girl named Jennifer, I was in class with, she was altar serving with me. Mm-hmm. She was scared. She was shaking up. I'm confused because I'm like, why my face hurt? What happened? I couldn't remember anything. And she said I kind of just like walked and then I just stumbled. I don't remember any of that. That wasn't the first time I passed out either. But it was the fact that he didn't really seem too concerned. It was like, oh yeah, we're gonna go with this mass. And this was the first mass because we had two, a 9 o'clock and an 11 o'clock. The 11 o'clock was the big mass. This wasn't even the big mass though. And he was just, listen, he did not have time for me at all.
So when you say passed out, okay.
I fainted.
This is a regular type of faint.
Yeah.
And it happened before.
Like that was my first time doing it.
But did it always happen in church?
No. That was my first time, so it had never happened before.
Okay, so it wasn't like a religious experience.
No. Okay. No, it was just a hot summer.
I wanted to clarify that.
And because all of them, because we had to wear the black robe and the white robe.
It was just hot. Okay.
It was very hot because it was summertime too. Or was it? Yeah, it was like September. School year started. But it was that. It was mass. It was hush, hush, quiet. We did confession and the booths. Everything was very quiet, boring, just monotone. I was in a choir like 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And so family mass, we would do our thing. The choir would sing. I would try to liven it up. But it was very...
I wanted to clarify that because, in the Christian church, there's this thing they call being slain in the spirit. Okay, where they want to pray for you and knock you out. And God. So I visited somebody's church one time, and I was in the front row. And the pastor was preaching, and then after that, they started praying for everybody, and he just went around trying to like knock people out. You know what I'm saying? He's like pop you on the forehead, and people was like getting knocked out. Like they call it being slain in the spirit. Or
like Mama Payne did on Martin.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Exactly like that. So
I've heard of it because my aunt, she's done it and she's started talking in tongues and I've seen her feel it. Right. And I've felt that before, but I've never fallen out into convulsion. I don't believe in all of that. That scares me, Gus.
You said you felt what?
I felt moved to the point where I had to calm myself down because I'd be so full of energy, excitement. I get that. But I don't shake and I calm myself down. I go meditate and get grounded.
Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of that.
No, but it scares me.
I get it. But now the Bible talks about that, speaking in tongues and stuff like that. It's supposed to be something orderly. The Bible speaks in terms of when you're speaking in terms.
Tongues.
Tongues.
Okay.
I'm tongue-tied. I don't know why I said that.
Go ahead.
In terms of speaking in tongues.
All of that.
Right. The Bible speaks of that in a way where you're supposed to have an interpreter. I believe it's in Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, or anyway, you're supposed to have an interpreter there.
Okay.
To interpret what's being said.
So because we hear people talking now. Do we know what they're saying?
Right, you don't.
Do we even know if that's tongue?
Well, there's a reason why the Bible says have an interpreter, so that it doesn't cause confusion, so there's not chaos, and so that it edifies the congregation. Because when someone has the gift of tongues, it's supposed to be a self-edification. Now, that's what the Bible says. A self-edification.
Okay.
Now, maybe I took that as if a person needs that,
right,
then God will give you that gift.
Right.
But if you're going to do it in the middle of nowhere and you're just in the church and it look chaotic.
Yeah.
The Bible, here's the reason why I say it said if a stranger, let's say a stranger walks in or a new person who's never
Right, like somebody like me who would be scared.
Right, they're not a Christian. They just walk into the church. They're a new member. They're a visitor or something.
I'm a Christian. I just didn't attend those churches.
Right. If you don't know nothing about that, it's chaotic and it looked demonic. Mm-hmm. It looked crazy. Mm. But if you have an interpreter that can interpret what's being said, now you got clarification. Yeah. So I mean, I'm just saying,
am I a Christian?
I don't know.
I just had to sit here. I'm like, I'm a Christian, but I don't know if I am.
Why?
I guess because I don't believe in religion.
But do you believe?
Does that mean anything?
But do you believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ?
I do.
Do you believe that Jesus is?
I know he died on the cross for me.
Okay, then you're a Christian. Then.
Okay, I was like, does that make me a Christian? Or look, now I'm confused. I just know because I'm so suspect after all of this. And everything that I've endured and witnessed in the 41 years I've been on this earth, I'm like, God, I just trust you. I don't know about these other people. I mean,
if you believe in the death, burial, and the reresurrection of Jesus Christ, and you believe
that's it. And that's it. Me, God, and my brother Jesus. Okay, then. I don't know about nobody else.
Then we Christians then.
Period. That's it.
We just don't go to church.
Because God is here. Right. My Christianity is here, okay? Listen, I'm Christ-like. I don't have to be Jesus. Jesus died already. But I believe God gave all of us a gift, a purpose, a reason, something that we're supposed to give to this world to help uplift and support each other. That's what I believe. And I didn't read that in the Bible. I got that from connecting with God in nature, meditating, doing it in the way that I connect. And no, I didn't go to church.
I like to tell people that God was God before there was a church.
It was.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Because God said, I didn't tell you to do that on Sunday for me. I'm not getting the tax dollar. I'm not getting the tithe.
Yeah, it's like Jesus. Jesus didn't say, okay, I'm going away, but when I leave, I want y'all to celebrate my birthday. I want y'all to
go crazy.
He didn't say that.
I know. I know. It's man. And that's the other reason why I stopped celebrating Christmas. Because I said, first of all, Jesus' birthday is not in December. But if Jesus is the reason for the season, why do I keep seeing Black Friday commercials, Santa Claus? I don't see anybody talking about Jesus.
It's the Great Compromise. The Great Compromise. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Same thing about Easter. Now, I don't know if people realize this, but the word Easter is actually in the Bible. Mm-hmm. You realize that, right? It was already a pagan practice before there was a put Jesus Easter on the cross. Sunday. Right before Jesus even went to the cross, Easter existed as a holiday. Yeah. So let's get the whole notion of we're celebrating his resurrection on that day. That's not what the day was. No. It was literally a celebration of fertility. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, the fertility and regeneration of nature.
Because that makes sense why it falls in spring.
Right, spring, and then we have the symbolism of the rabbits and the eggs.
That's right.
Rabbits are the most, I think, some of the most fertile things.
Yes,
on earth.
They are, because they are everywhere.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay.
And the egg is a symbol of fertility.
Thank you for educating me. Did not know that. And listen, been in Catholic school since preschool through senior year. I don't even remember. And I took theology. I took religion. Okay. I actually did take a theology class my senior year. It was interesting learning about the different religions because I did learn about them. Mm. I think I challenged it then too. And now I'm really questioning the Catholic Church, especially because if God created Adam and Eve, then how come Catholic Church don't allow the priests to
marry?
Yes, or the nuns. What is this about? Why do they have to live a life of celibacy? But then the Catholic priests molest the children, then we want to keep it hush hush. Well, see, come on now. Are you Christian or are you not? You can't pick and choose when you're going to do good and when you're not going to do good. And then that's when I start to debate the church and the religion, make it make sense.
I think it's one of those things where you have so many restrictions that
thank you.
It just makes you want to
just do what you can't do. Again, it goes back to them trying to control. Listen, this is why I keep saying I don't need nobody to tell me the way God wants me to live. God already gave me. He gave you everything you need inside of you. I don't need the Catholic priest to tell me that none. I just don't. God done told me. And I love the Bible. I love the stories. Mm-hmm. But once again,
you know what else about Catholics? Well, not just Catholics, but Christians in general. we don't believe that Jesus was a real person. We
really?
we don't believe that he got married or could have had kids.
He was a human being.
Like, how come he couldn't be married?
How come he couldn't?
It would have been weird for a 30-year-old Jewish boy, man, to not be married. Do you know how strange and how much of an outcast he would have been?
Yeah. Just, he was already an outcast, but yeah.
Well, I mean, just in
but it would have looked right
in their cultural society.
So who do you think he married? If he got married, if you were to pick anybody from the Bible, who do you think Jesus would have married?
Probably Mary Magdalene.
The Mary Magdalene?
The Mary Magdalene.
So my understanding of Mary Magdalene from the Catholic Church was she was a whore. But did she? No. She was a whore, but Jesus saved her, protected her. I'm trying to remember the way that they taught.
I mean, it's something like that. We traditionally say she was a whore or a prostitute, but there's nothing in the Bible. I don't think it says that that's what she was. Okay. It's implied that he delivered demons out of her or something to that effect. But I don't think it specifically says that she was a prostitute. Okay. But I think
because I heard she was a madam. And I actually heard she was giving Jesus money because Jesus didn't really have money.
That could be possible.
And I can believe that if he was living in doing the work of God, because I do believe a lot of people in faith-based, especially back then. And if you're doing it for the right reasons, you're not focusing on money.
Well, that he probably had to give up some money. But when I read the Bible, I see clues that he had some money.
Okay.
And here's the clues. If he was raised by,
I knew he was a carpenter.
Well, they say carpenter, but I would most likely say it was a stonemason.
Okay,
but
makes sense.
But either way, carpenter, stonemason.
He had a job.
Yeah, he had a job. He had a practice. Right. They had a family practice.
Right.
He probably had a little bit of money.
Little change.
Second thing, if he was truly the seed of David. Mm-hmm. He probably still belonged to a family that had a little bit of money. Mm-hmm. They say that he was related to David on both Joseph's side and Mary's side.
So he got an inheritance.
Right, he probably had a little bit of money. I don't think Jesus was poor or broke. Here's another clue that Jesus was probably not broke.
Okay.
The Last Supper.
Listen.
They
ate good.
Yeah, they ate good, and they rented basically would be equivalent to like a banquet hall.
Like Nino Brown did in New Jack City.
Exactly. He had some money. He was like, go and prepare a place and
that's right. We're gonna have this last little party.
He told his disciples, there's a guy over there. When you see him, the guy holding a pitcher of water or something. It was something like that. But that's another symbolism, but that's another conversation. Age of
Aquarius. That's next.
I mean, think about the symbolism. What's Aquarius? What's the sign?
The water bearer.
Yeah. They told him to go see a man holding a pitcher of water or something like that. That's how you know that's the room. Talk to him about renting a room. And it's a little, But anyway.
That's another conversation. Ooh, we can talk about that the next episode because I love to talk about the age of Aquarius.
Okay, that's another conversation. Mm-hmm. But he had some money. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he was broke like that.
So Jesus had a woman, had a family. Why would they think that he didn't? How come Jesus couldn't?
Because we like to think about celibacy.
Why?
That's what made me think about that, because you said the priest had to be celibate and all that.
But why? When Adam and Eve, why? Where in religion do we say we can't have sex?
God created us to be coupled up. You know what I'm saying? So why couldn't Jesus be? We're not talking about him whoring around.
Right. We don't want him to have a harem. No, we don't want him to be that.
How come he couldn't have a wife?
Why couldn't he just be a normal human being? Because then that's the other thing. Because we glorify. We love to put people and things on pedestals.
Right.
And we're going to put Jesus on a pedestal.
Above God.
But you don't even understand, like, Jesus was a human being.
People get so mad when I say Jesus was a regular guy and played soccer in school. He probably, you know what I'm saying?
he was normal, right.
He was on the basketball team.
And
why not?
And why not?
Why not?
And he got the word from God and listened to what it was that God told him to do, just like I'm doing, just like a lot of us light workers or healers or whatever you want to call them are doing. Then people look at us and then they think you're blasphemous or you're trying to get attention or you're trying to do this, that, and the other. And I'm doing what my God is telling me to do.
Now get this. We believe Jesus was a sacrifice, right? Mm-hmm. What kind of sacrifice would he be if he was not a normal person?
That's true. You don't sacrifice.
If he wasn't one of us,
right?
How would he even be worthy of being a sacrifice for us? He had to have been among us and one of us.
Right.
In order to qualify as a sacrifice in place of us.
That's true. He came out of a woman.
Yeah. Why didn't he just come down in angelic form?
Right. I know his mama didn't get penetrated, but he definitely came out of Mary. Allegedly, she didn't get penetrated, but nonetheless.
I mean, it said he was born of the Spirit. An angel came upon her.
Yeah. Did the angel impregnate her? Are they trying to say the angel raped her? Is that what you're saying?
If so, that wouldn't be the first instance of angels having sex with women in the Bible.
Tell me more.
Well, it happened before the flood in the days of Noah. Right. So it says that the sons of God came to earth. The sons of God. Who are the sons of God? The angels, I guess, or some kind of beings came in and saw the daughters of God and saw that they were beautiful and wanted to have sex with them. And I'm quite sure that probably created a hybrid race of something.
That's how it starts.
Right.
So it goes back to fast forward to today. Now we got these pimps in the pulpit. We got all this mess because we know that a lot of churches have a lot of mess. Again, because you're trying to be slick. You're trying to do things behind closed doors in the name of religion and God. And that's why I'm like, wait, pause.
Wait, did we skip over something? So did the angel have sex with Mary? Or
I don't know. I was waiting on you to answer.
I don't know. The Bible doesn't say. It's not very clear. All it says is the angel came to her or came upon her, and next
because the Catholic Church made me believe Mary was a virgin.
I mean, yeah, I guess so, but of a man. Never been with a man, but that doesn't mean
that's
she
true,
wasn't with
an angel ain't a man,
or not the kind of man
not
I am.
Human man,
right? Maybe some other type of physical.
We know Joseph being. Wasn't a daddy biologically. No, I'm joking.
I'm just saying it's a lot we don't know.
We don't, and I love that we don't. But I don't need to. I don't need to know Jesus' story. All I know is he died on the cross for me.
Like for me, honestly, he doesn't have to be born of a virgin.
Like, it doesn't matter for me either.
Like for me, he could have been a bastard child. It could have been Joseph and Mary had sex before they was married, and
I think that would have made it more realistic for me.
Well, that's what people thought in the first place anyway. Because think about it, it says that Joseph was scared and he wanted to put Mary away. Yeah. And then the angel had to come to him and say, wait,
it's all good.
It's all good. Yeah, right, because we got this plan.
Why he had to put her away? Because she was pregnant and they weren't married.
Yeah, that's what it was. My God. He was ashamed. Listen, he was ashamed of her, thinking that either he did it or somebody else did it. But but either way,
I'm that baby's daddy.
Either way, the public perception, the narcissistic view of it.
Talk about it. The narcissistic view of it.
He was willing to put her away
to save face because he wanted to look good.
Right.
Okay. And that's why when I got pregnant 2007 and me and my husband wasn't married and my auntie said, y'all should get married. Why? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why would he do that? Because what year is this? Who does that? No. But
I mean, what I was saying, I didn't want to get too sidetracked, but what I was saying is Jesus could not be born of a virgin.
Right.
And still be the same Savior, the same Christ, the same anointed one, the same one that's our example, the same one connected to God in such a way that we need to follow and be like him.
We just expect that people are perfect. In order for us to follow them and trust them, they have to be perfect. That's impossible.
Right.
None of us are sent here to be perfect. Or they have to look a certain way. Or they have to have a certain amount of money. That's where we got it twisted. And that's how they control us. And that's why we're so distracted and not really paying attention and tuning in to what it is God is trying to get us to pay attention to. Because we're so distracted by everything else because God has already given us everything inside of us.
So how do we fix this?
We got to wake up. We have to wake up. We have to wake up and pay attention to what's going on around us. What's going on in this world? I have not watched TV and I can't tell you the last time I saw the news. Really? I don't need to. I can feel it energetically. I can feel it. I see enough of it
on Facebook.
Jeez. Right. I do it. I'm like, oh no, I can feel it. I can tell. Plus, I'm a spiritualist and I believe in astrology, so I know what's getting ready to happen. Planets are moving that have not moved in over 100 years. So yes, there's very powerful things happening. Planets are moving and retrograding and all so fast and so quickly now that we can't do nothing but go with the flow, allow life to happen. We're either resisting it or we're going to surrender to it and just allow it to go and happen and allow God to work on our behalf, and we have to trust. And I believe that that's what's going to ultimately wake us up. We're all going to be challenged and tested. Like I said before, we're all at a crossroad, and it's just a matter of making the decisions that are going to be in the best and highest good for us. And the only way we will know this is if we get quiet and listen to the messages that God has given us. God has given it to us. It's inside of us. Hell, our bodies can tell us when something's not right, when we're in an unsafe environment or we're in an unsafe place. It's up to us to be conscious enough.
Our bodies are receptors. Mm-hmm. We are electromagnetic chemical robots. Aren't we? like we really are.
I know.
Like, why is it that we believe our cell phones, our radios, our TVs, we believe that those material things can collect energy and read signals, but we don't believe that we can.
Right. And because we are energy.
Right.
I know. It's strange.
Y'all need to see it that way.
Yeah.
Like, if our cell phone, which we created, we put the metal and the together, blah, blah, blah. We put the stuff in there. Did. If we can create something that can read signals, then we got to believe that we can read signals too.
We have to. How do we create it?
I mean,
man made it, right? That's true though. That's
we believe in so many things.
We believe in a lot of untruthful things at that. But the things that we should believe in, we're skeptical about it.
Right.
That's the way the world created us, though. That's why we can't pay attention and wake up to what it is Spirit is trying to get us to see, because the world have us living in a state of fear, in a state of power, in a state of helplessness and hopelessness.
Well, if you can keep fear going, you can keep power
there
going.
There you go. That part. And nobody has power over you, soulmates, except the Creator. That's who's going to determine when you take your last breath. Not the president, not the pastor, not the brother man, not the other man, not any man.
The president.
Because a lot of people was on edge about that. A lot of people are still on edge about that. And I'm like, but why?
Look. Christians be saying stuff like, no weapon formed against me shall prosper, and nothing can stop me, and I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me, except for you can't get over Donald Trump.
You can't get over that. It's like, okay, so and then here's the thing: if you're that upset about it, do something about it. Right. If you're upset, well, do something. Because for me, it just gave me more encouragement to keep doing what I'm doing as a Black queen.
Right.
Let me go out here and speak my truth to wake up all the divine feminine goddesses in this world to see that, queen, this man can't stop you from being your divine feminine self.
Man or nothing else.
Nothing.
No weapon shall prosper except for COVID.
COVID couldn't keep me down either.
Look. It's just
we are our own worst enemy.
We choose the things to be so afraid of. We choose the things to give power to. Mm-hmm. We choose the things to say, "Oh, this is going to defeat me," or "Oh, Lord, the world is going to be over because this is it."
That part. We choose what we give our power to.
Yeah.
Hence, why we end up being so powerless.
Yes.
To everything, because some of us unwillingly give our power away.
Everything that they tell you can defeat you, you let it defeat you.
Because you let them believe, you let them convince you.
Yeah.
And now you don't even trust yourself. That's when you lose the connection with God. The minute you start letting them tell you that, you start letting them put that fear in you, you start letting them control you.
Right.
and you lose that powerlessness, that's when you have lost your connection with the Creator. That's when we go wrong.
I grew up feeling like, I mean, of course I grew up Christian, but I felt like nobody should be as fearless as a Christian.
Okay, I thought it was just me.
Like I always felt like Christians should be the least people that's fearful. We should be the most courageous people, the most, not when I say Christian, I mean anybody that believes in God.
I anybody get it. Right.
Yeah, right. Because everybody didn't grow up in America. Everybody didn't grow up in.
Right. They grew up in, Buddhism or
but there's a sense of godliness.
Muslim. Right? It is. It's still something.
If you grew up in the middle of the rainforest and you never seen no other people,
you believe in a tree. You believe in nature. You believe in something.
You know that God is in it.
That's right.
They had some type of godliness. Yeah. And so I don't believe that just because you're not a Christian that you're not connected to God.
Me neither.
Everybody hasn't been what's the word?
Baptized.
No, no.
I don't know.
No.
What's the word though, mate?
Everybody colonized.
Colonized.
The whole world has not been colonized.
They have not.
by the European Christian.
Colonized.
Right, colonized. Everybody hasn't had that.
They haven't. Bless their heart.
I'm just saying there are people who are living so primitive that they have never heard the gospel of Jesus Christ. Or the whatever. But you got to believe that those people still understand. Use my words. I'm getting tongue tied. I need some water.
I'm like, is that the spirit coming through? You're not talking in tongues, right? But what were you saying there?
I'm saying that everybody hasn't been colonized.
Right.
Everybody hasn't had the opportunity to be preached to or learn the Bible or learn religion. But they still have some sense of spirituality.
They believe in something greater than themselves, than a being greater than them.
I mean, even a brand new child could look up in the sky and wonder.
That's right.
The Bible calls it the gift of awe and wonder.
Yes.
Where you can learn to be, you can be at awe at the things that you see. You can look up at the stars. You can look up at the clouds and just wonder, like, wow.
That's how I look at it.
That's amazing. That has to be something greater than me.
It is.
That does this. Like,
I love looking at the moon and the stars. It is something greater than us. And it wasn't until, like I said, I started healing from everything I went through and I joined the 12-step program of Emotions Anonymous that I unlearned everything that I was taught about God, the religion, Catholic, so all of that.
In a 12-step program?
Mm-hmm.
Really? How did they go about
because
that?
The premise of the 12-step program is you have to believe in something greater than yourself that's going to restore you to sanity.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Step 1 is admitting that you're powerless. But in the beginning, you have to believe in yes, that's why I have so much belief in spirituality. Because that's where I learned that God is a God of my understanding. I don't have to believe what church told me or how we was raised, because the book teaches us that none of that is true, because half the time those stories are the reason why we are in these predicaments in the first place. So it was that unlearning that helped me see, like, wait, God not judging me because of those mistakes? Oh my goodness, God, because that's what I was doing. I was judging me so hard because I thought I was failing you. And then I thought I was failing the people in my life. And it was that showed me no. And then if you don't believe in a God, you can believe in nature. You can believe in a group. As long as you believe in something bigger than you, something that's going to help you believe that you can't do this alone. Your recovery process.
I get it.
That's where I started understanding that, wait a minute. So you mean to tell me, I always knew these Catholics was a little suspect, but you mean to tell me that all of this is not true? I always wondered that. Wow, thank you for making me feel better. And it was that I started understanding. Oh, God is always with me. God is in me. You mean to tell me I don't have to? All this time when I was praying and doing these things, I'm thinking I'm praying way far out, and like times where I didn't even realize that God was giving me messages and sending me signs and giving me my answers, because the church didn't teach me that. I learned that in the 12-step and understanding spirituality and understanding meditation and then understanding that.
You know what's interesting? Throughout the whole Bible, we see people getting messages. We see people having visions and having dreams and getting visited by angels and blah, 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 all this type of stuff. But all of a sudden, at some point, God just shut up. According to
not my God, because I always have dreams.
I know, I get it, but I'm saying according to a lot of people, they want to act like God
all
just
the
doesn't.
Holy people stop. They ended in the Bible.
Yeah, like God can't speak to you anymore. God can't give you any more messages. God can't give you revelation.
The problem is we think that it's supposed to look like it did in the Bible. Now, why would we think that God is going to do the same thing back then now? When the world has changed, technology, you got social media. God is going to come to us in a different means, in a different form, in a way that we are going to understand it. But it's up to us to understand it and to pay attention to what it is. And one thing about what did you say? God will chastise you. God will wake you up and go get your attention, one way or the other.
Now get this. Back in 3,000 years ago, whatever, what type of media did they have?
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth, and at some point they had
wives' tale,
stones and chisels,
that's
right? Or and then they started writing, I guess.
Yeah.
If that was the only medium they had, then that was the only tool they had.
That's true.
To like convey their messages. Right. Today we have so many other things. We got music. Yes. We got movies. We got plays. We got TV. We got
we got this.
Yeah, we got podcasts. We got a lot of YouTube. We got
forms of media and communication.
So my point is this, though: if God could inspire writers in the day, or just orators, people who just spoke,
right?
Why does God not? I'm saying He does. I'm saying that He does.
I know, because that's what we do.
God inspires people today in the forms of media that we have available today. That the same inspiration in some of the writings that we call scripture in the Bible, God could be inspiring movie makers.
God does.
He inspires book writers. He inspires I'm not saying TV shows and movies is
TV
holy, but what I'm saying is
writers. You're right.
I'm saying there's that possibility.
That is it. God gave those people those gifts. God gave me my gift of communication, of writing, of speaking. That's what I believe God gives us to give to the others, to give back to the world.
I believe if people could have made movies back then, they would have been making movies. Yeah. Our Bible could have been movies.
Could have. That's okay. We're going to do it now, though.
Right.
That's the technology then.
That's a clue. That's a clue, y'all.
Yes. So how blessed are we that we got all this technology, this big, beautiful world, and we can do and create whatever we want. How lucky are we? We are truly lucky.
Yeah.
We really are. And we take this stuff for granted. I know so many people that talk down about social media. And it's not the social media that's the problem. It's the people that are feeding you the negative content, the messaging. And you just got to find the right messengers. That's all.
That's okay. We're going to create a new platform.
It's a new beginning, soulmate.
We're going to create something new for you. A safe place for you.
For the culture.
For the new culture that we're building. We do have to change the culture. We got to get people to think differently, to view life differently, and to let go of some of the ideologies, the indoctrination that we've been succumb to. Like
the conditioning.
That's a word.
The imbalances, the toxicity that just seems normal because according to what I've heard, well, it's always been this way. It's just the way the world is. And to me, I question it and say, and are you okay with that? Because I'm not. So I'm going to try what I can do within my power to change this because God is telling me I have the right to do that. God gave me this life to do it. God made sure I was alive to do it. So I'm going to do it. A lot of us have these things and gifts that God give us that we don't do. And it's those people that I want to connect with and say, while you're alive, while you're here, do it. Yeah. You don't need anybody to give you that permission except you. And the connection with your higher source, your higher power, whomever you believe in, that's going to give you the answer, the messages that you need. You don't need the pastor to tell you. But because we live in a world where it's TV, where it's music, where it's everything that influences us, that we don't know how to be still and listen and pay attention to the signs, to the answers when God gives them to us because we're so distracted. Like I said, there's so much to keep us outside of ourselves.
Now, I do believe that some people are gifted to be pastors.
Absolutely.
There are some people who need leadership.
Yeah.
And there are some who are great at being leaders, who know how to nurture people, who know how to gather people around, who know how to teach, who know how to comfort people who need the comfort. So I do believe there's a place for it. I just don't believe in the over dependency of it.
No.
That's the thing.
Nobody should be over dependent on anything. Right. Especially in this world. We can't. We can't be over dependent on the job, on an individual, on food, or any of that, because all of that can be taken away. Only thing I can depend on is my creator, my higher power. And I only know this because then showed me a thing or two several times. I've seen it. I felt it. I know it. I've connected with it. I see it the minute I open up my eyes. The sun is out. It has to be something greater than me.
There are some people who believe that there's going to be an end of what's called the church age. You ever heard that before?
No, but
but
what did I just say? Oh, we are definitely going to be waking up. Well, I'm not surprised.
It's not a new concept, but
not surprised.
It's just the belief that the church began whenever it began, 2,000 years ago, whatever, and that we're in a time now when it will no longer be useful or I'm trying to use my words carefully.
No, just not say it.
Because
it's not that it won't be useful, but people are going to waken up and realize that they don't have to have a church to have a relationship with God. And also,
that was never a demand. You never needed it, but there was a time for it. But I think we're slowly moving into a time where it's just not going to be the only thing.
No.
Like we're going to be evolving spiritually to where we will have greater connection with God, greater power, better recognition. Thank you. Better recognition of who God is, what God is, and the possibilities we have in a relationship with Him. And I think the stronger and the better that we connect with God, the less we'll need a church.
That's right.
The function of the church will just kind of fade away in a bit because it's
keep them in business.
Well, I mean, yeah,
they don't have the money. No, but you're right, and that's exactly what I'm saying.
It served its purpose already. It gave its doctrine out there. It gave us the rules. It gave us the.
Exactly. It was the foundation.
Right. We got that already.
Yes. Now what? Now what? It's that for me. The now what? We still are here. We can still do something different. And maybe everybody doesn't have that calling or get that inspiration to say, I have something within me that I want to contribute and give to this world, to make it different, to make it better. Because for me, it's clear as day. Now, it wasn't always clear as day. But like I said, when I had the great awakening and it dawned on me that, oh, no, I do have a bigger purpose. That's when it became clear. And then that's when I understood my message is to help everybody see that they can turn their pain into purpose and prosperity, honestly.
Awakening. Explain your great awakening. What? Because you mentioned that a couple of times before, but like.
The great awakening. I call it my great awakening because it was when I turned 40 that I went on a spiritual retreat because I realized I had been going through this constant cycle in relationships and it was really tearing me up. And I'm like, first of all, why do I keep having this issue? But why is it hurting me so bad when somebody walks out of my life? Why do I react this way? And it was during the spiritual retreat that I had my spiritual awakening. And it was like I fell down to it was my 40th birthday and I just remember crying and just thanking God because in that moment something came over me that told me everything is going to be okay. You are good. And it just, this feeling physically came over me. It was like I felt lighter. I felt more energized, more rejuvenated.
Right.
And it was that moment that I was like, I have to write my book. I have to get my story out. That's when I realized that, I have a voice. And I have to share this to save lives. That's when I had my great awakening. I had an awakening before that when I did the 12 steps after I did 1 through 12, because the 12th step is actually having a spiritual awakening, carrying the message to others. And it was at that time, after I did all of that work, made amends with my husband, we became friends. Okay. I started having that life feeling too. I felt like I was born again. Like I went through something that I did this huge release, and it was a new beginning, and it felt like a new lease on life. I was in I think I had met somebody in a new relationship, new job. I just felt so free and new. And this was during the pandemic. Everybody else was freaking out, and me, I'm like, it's a different world. Because what's the pandemic going to do? And I almost just unalived myself the year before. So you can miss me with that.
Right.
But 2023 is when I had my great awakening. And then that's when also going through this journey, I didn't understand that God was getting ready to really put me through the ultimate test. Because that's what God will do for those that are willing to do the work, that's willing to walk the walk and talk the talk. Okay, let's see. And because I didn't follow my intuition, I fell for a false prophet. And Spirit was trying to get me to see you didn't even need that man, because at the end of the day, I didn't. I still got the book out without him. Me and God and Gus. See, soulmates, when you trust and surrender and you allow the things and the people to get out of your life that you don't need, and just let God do what God gonna do for you, and just throw your hands up and watch it's gonna be done. Now, was it easy? No. Did I have a lot of strife? Yes. But that's the test. That's when you know you're ready. That's when you know, oh, it's about to be good, because, ooh, it's getting hard, God. Ooh, you tested me, God, but I'm not giving up. I don't care what test you throw my way. I'm not wavering. I'm not going to stop. And it's that keeps me motivated, keeps me going.
Why don't you take time to plug your book real quick?
Healing Out Loud. Yeah, soulmates. In case you didn't know, I'm sure you do. Please purchase Healing Out Loud. It's my story, but it's your story too, soulmates. Yes, I'm a suicide survivor, but I'm a healer. The book is about what it looks like and what it feels like to heal from mental and emotional distress, which most of us have. Healing past traumas, old wounds, which most of us have. And a lot of us around this middle age of 40 and above, we don't realize how much trauma and how much pain we've held on to. But it was in this that I realized, God, I had to put the book out in 2025 because people are healing now more than ever. And they need it now. Healing is just another word for saved. And people are going through a lot of tests and challenges now, because this is the year of what? The Great Awakening.
Yes, yes.
So let me go ahead and help my soulmates awaken, get healed, and get in alignment with the great creator and what we getting ready to do. This is a new world.
Absolutely. And there's going to be a link that you can go to and buy the book in the description. Hey, and if y'all like this content that we're doing, please subscribe to the channel.
Comment, like, share it. Please share it. And not to share it because we want the ratings and subscribers, but share it because you never know who needs the message.
Exactly.
If it's not for you, it can be for somebody else. I always think about somebody else. And that, for me, is the reason why I do this. If it's not for you, you never know who it's for.
Yeah. I'm going to tell a little story about my spiritual awakening.
Tell 'em.
Yeah, so check this out. I want to say it was like 2005-ish, somewhere in there. I went on a trip. I was married at the time, but I took a little hiatus. I went on a trip, took a weekend off, went to go visit a college friend. So that's part of the story. Okay. Now let me backtrack some years. When I was in college, I went to a Halloween party, just a regular Halloween party. And I met some people there that I'd never seen before, just sitting on the couch just like this. We, drunk, high and everything. We just enjoying the party. Okay. And I get into this deep conversation with a girl, and she didn't even go to the school. We was in college, but she didn't even go to the school. She was a visitor. She was visiting somebody else. She was from another country. She lived in Denmark. Oh, okay. Right? Okay, so through this conversation that we had, we just talking about some of everything, life, blah, 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 blah. we decided to keep in contact. Mm-hmm. So we started writing letters to each other, and just yeah, exactly, a pen pal, and it was like strictly friendly, like real cool and friendly. Fast forward a little bit, after I got out of school, we were still friends, right? So she invited me to her birthday party. She was living in Ireland at the time. So I get on the plane and I go to Ireland. And I'm at the birthday party. We having a good time, right? She introduced me to one of her best friends, a Danish girl. So we hit it off and we talking and we became good friends. And she takes me to her mother's house and everything, and we having a good time. I played the piano for him and everything. It was like a real good time, right? So we get into another deep conversation, me and her best friend. We started talking about spirituality and blah, blah, blah. And she started talking about how she was healed of cancer from a spiritualist and blah, blah, blah. And we was talking about some of everything, right? And she tells me about this book. Now, she gave me the title of the book in Danish. Wow. Because that's all she knew. Right. And I was like, you never heard of it? And she was like, I ain't never heard of it. But she was like, you got to read this book. You got to read this book, right? It will change your life. She kept saying it will change your life forever. And I was like, okay. So she wrote it down for me in Danish. And I had to go in, like basically translate to see what it would be in English, because she couldn't think of what it would be in English. So anyway, I wrote it down. And then some years later, I want to say like 4 or 5 years later, I take this trip to Colorado. Okay. To go see a college friend. And we sitting in her kitchen. And I'm sitting at the table. She making some chicken or whatever, whatever she was making. Right. And I lean on the table like this, right? And it was wobbly. And I was like, what's wrong with this table, right? One of the legs on the table was a little short. Uh-huh. And under the leg, she had a book. Are you serious? Is that book? It was the book that the girl in Denmark was telling me I needed to read, and it would change my life. Wow. My old college friend had this book that she bought when we was in college. Get out of here. Wow. And didn't think much of it. She using it to prop up her kitchen table. That's crazy. And it still had the little sticker in there from the bookstore that she bought it from. Tag. Yeah, I knew not a price tag. It was they used to put these little bookmarks in it. Oh, I see. And I remembered the bookstore because I used to shop there too. Mm-hmm. It's just the fact that she had that book. I was blown away. I bet. That was a coincidence. It wasn't. Like, a lot had to happen to get me there. Yeah. A lot had to happen in my marriage. All of that. Like, that's a whole nother story. I could tell you the story of that, but. So, did you read the book? I did. What was the name of it? It's called The Celestine Prophecy. Celestine Prophecy. I've heard of that. Where have I heard of that? There was a movie about it too. I think it was on Netflix. Look. It's getting too real in here. I know. The spirit's like, woo. Lights dimming. Oh, the street lights did go out. Oh, wow. It's windy. They say it's windy. Yeah. Windy. But go ahead. Okay. So tell me about it again. So it's a fictional book, but it has so many spiritual concepts in it. And this, for the first time, I realized that God was so bigger than what I thought. Credit. Yeah. Right. I grew up in a Christian church feeling like God was like, some. Yes, like, judgmental, high and mighty being. Some genie. Yes. A big genie sitting on a throne or something. But that book helped me realize that God was everything. Yes. God was in every piece of his creation. Yes. God was in every drop of water, every piece of blood in my body, every air that I breathe. God is everything. Yes. And it changed my whole scope of what spirit was. Spiritual awakening. That was the beginning of my awakening. Just the fact that I even found that book. Because I forgot about it, first of all. Yeah. I was like, okay. I would have too. I told her, I was like, okay, I'll try to find it. I'll write the name of the book down. I'll try to find it. That's powerful. God made me find that book. Did. So much had to get me to Colorado in that kitchen and lean on that table. And it's the leaning on the table for me, because what are the odds that you would just happen to be?
Because most people would have just been like, oh, well.
Right. It's wobbly.
Yeah. And that would have been that. Only you.
But look, because I'm looking at the leg like I need to try to fix this table.
I know.
Right. You already knew.
Right.
Like, what's wrong with this table? What I got to do to fix this?
Wow. That's interesting. Wow.
That was the beginning for me. It changed my whole outlook, my whole scope of what God
is. That's
beautiful.
Yeah. And that's how God works through you. God will get your attention until you get it. And you'll know it because it feels good. It feels different. Right. That's when I started understanding that, oh, wow. Because now my ears are ringing. That's another sign. But, and I believe that that's clairaudience. When I hear I do believe in that. But that's when I realized that, oh my goodness, this is the spiritual awakening experience. I've heard of this. But I did not ever imagine that I would have endured that, gone through that. And I did not know that it would be the way that people described it to be. Some people thought I was different. And maybe to some extent I am different. I'm just wiser. I'm just awakened. I'm still me, but I have a purpose for living now. And I have values and things that I live by. I hold myself to a higher standard now. Because I know God is showing out for me, so let me do the same in return. That's the least I can do.
Now, when you say higher standard, how can we distinguish that from the Christian? I'll put that in quotation marks. The Christian that we talked about earlier, feeling like they're high and mighty or above everyone else, the narcissist type of attitude. How do we distinguish
that from what I mean?
Right.
So when I hold myself to a higher standard, meaning I have values that I live by. Integrity, honesty, loyalty. That's what I mean. I didn't have any of that before. I just was living and, going along to get along. Now I hold myself to a higher standard when I wake up, when I move, when I go out into this world. Am I holding myself accountable to these values, to these standards that I said? I told God this is what I stand for. And if I'm going to do this work, am I practicing what I preach? That's what I mean. Because if I'm not holding myself accountable, then I can't help anybody else. And I'm not going to ever speak or share or teach anything to anybody that I myself have not learned. That's what I mean by hold myself up to a higher standard. And when I make a mistake, I take accountability and I apologize and make amends, because that's the standard I hold myself to. That's what I mean. Not trying to please somebody else, me and God.
Right. Exactly.
Thank you for asking that, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this very touchy yet therapeutic and healing conversation.
It was.
Nothing to take personal, but to just, again, awaken us to see that the things that they told us, are they really true still? To each his own, but I know what I know, and I know what God has shown me, and I know what God has prepared for me.
Exactly.
And that's all I got to do.
Yeah.
You do too.
And we all have our way of growing. We all have our own relationship with God and spirituality.
Right. We do.
And it's our own responsibility to keep ourselves in check and have, like you said, your standard.
That's right.
Let's hold ourselves to our own standard.
Our own standards. Yeah. Not the church, not the religion, my own standards.
Based on your relationship with Spirit and God.
That's right.
But thanks for being here and watching our conversation again.
Yes.
Totally unscripted.
Making sense. That's all.
We just sit down and try to talk a little bit. I appreciate you, Miss
Thank
Kiana.
you, Mr. Carter.
Yeah. Until next time.
Later, soulmates. Bye. I just really want to have a remote, because I feel like I should have a remote. Like the one chick. Do we supposed to say our names? Obviously, you Kiana. I mean, I'm Kiana. Oh my God. Obviously, they know you're not Kiana and I'm Gus.
I am she and she is me.
Right. Okay. What? All right. So
we're gonna edit that part, huh?
We are. That was funny. Okay, where do you want to start it?